everybody, welcome back. It has been a while, and I hope you guys are doing great wherever you are. And also, welcome to another NFL season. The 2024 season kicks off tomorrow night, Thursday night in Kansas City. But in this video, we are going to do my Week 1 NFL predictions. There's a lot to talk about in this video, so let's not waste any time and let's hop right in. The first matchup we have for Week 1 of the NFL season is a great one, and it is a rematch of last year's AFC Championship game. The Baltimore Ravens travel to Kansas City. Right now, Kansas City is favored by 3 points. Typically, that would be how many points the home team get. In this matchup, I'm actually going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. They are going to be out looking for revenge. You massively upgrade your run game with Derrick Henry. Now, I do think the Chiefs have made some good moves, but similar to last year where they lost Week 1, I do think they lose Week 1 here, but Kansas City are a fantastic team and they should have a really great season. They've added a ton of great weapons there. Then you move on to Friday night, all the way down in Brazil. We have the Green Bay Packers taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. This is going to be another really great matchup to kick off the NFL season. The Philadelphia Eagles are favored by 3. However, I like the Green Bay Packers in this one. Green Bay ended the season on a really strong note. Jordan Love just playing really good football. The Eagles kind of on a downward spiral. Can they turn it around, Philadelphia? Of course they can, but I think Week 1, no Jason Kelce, no Fletcher Cox, not having that leadership. I like Green Bay in this Week 1 matchup. Then we move on to the Sunday games, and the first game we're going to talk about is Pittsburgh at Atlanta. Typically, Week 1 games, super hard to predict. I normally like to go with either the coach or the quarterback. In this matchup, I like the Steelers coach Mike Tomlin, but I definitely prefer Kirk Cousins over Russell Wilson. I'm going to lean towards the home team in Atlanta with Kirk Cousins and all those weapons down there, and I think they get it done under Raheem Morris in his first year as head coach for the Atlanta Falcons. The next game that we're going to talk about is the Arizona Cardinals at the Buffalo Bills. The Bills favored by 6.5, and I think rightfully so. However, I think Arizona is a team on the rise. You get Marvin Harrison Jr., who I think should be an absolute stud. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than what people expect. However, I'm going to go with Josh Allen. I'm going to go with Sean McDermott, and they have some weapons there too. I love the pick of Keon Coleman and their defense led by Sean McDermott. I think Buffalo gets it done Week 1. Moving on to the next matchup, we have the Tennessee Titans taking on the Chicago Bears. The Bears, you get Caleb Williams, you get Rome Odunze, you add Keenan Allen. Things are looking good in Chicago, but I'm going to go with the upset here. Chicago favored by 4, but I'm going to go with Tennessee. I think Tennessee have made some really good moves to help set up Will Levis. You take J.C. Latham in the first round. You add Calvin Ridley. You have DeAndre Hopkins, Treylon Burks. You got some weapons there. The defense, you're getting Harold Landry back. I think it's going to take maybe a couple games, maybe a couple weeks for Caleb Williams to hit his stride. I think he's a great prospect, but I'm going to go with Tennessee on this one in a slight upset, and we'll see how that works out, though. But I think Tennessee gets the upset. Moving on to New England taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati favored by 6.5. You look at this game, Jamar Chase still holding out as of the making of this video. I still like Cincinnati. Joe Burrow is back. You still got T. Higgins. You got a lot of good players in your defense, but I think New England is they're about at least a year away, I think, from seriously competing against the likes of a team like Cincinnati on the road. Give me Cincinnati in that one, and they probably cover the spread too. Then you move on to a really good AFC South matchup, which isn't the most common thing you get to say, but Houston taking on the Indianapolis Colts. Houston favored by 3 on the road, and I think deservedly so. DeMeco Ryans doing a fantastic job. I'm a big fan of his. CJ Stroud just really grew into his role in year 1. I think he's going to take another step. You add Joe Mixon, you add Stephon Diggs. They added some players on defense. This team is primed to be, I think that as the year goes on, they could be right there neck and neck with your Kansas Cities and your Baltimores and your Cincinnatis when it comes to deep in the playoffs. But yeah, give me Houston taking Week 1 on the road in Indianapolis. Then we move into a battle of some of the Florida teams. You have Jacksonville traveling to Miami. Miami favored by 3.5 in this one, and I'm going to go with the home team here. I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins. I think they get it done. They still have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Waddle gets the extension. You have all those running backs. I think this is going to be a game where you could see a lot of points, but it's going to be just enough. I think Miami's offense is just a little bit too powerful. They're going to overwhelm Jacksonville to a certain degree. I think the Jaguars are a solid team, but I just think it's going to be too much firepower for them to slow down Miami. I think Miami wins this one maybe like 31-24 or something like that. Then we move on to a not so great matchup. We look at some of these games and they're really intriguing and really exciting. This is not one of them. It's Carolina traveling to the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans favored by 4. I'm going to go with the Saints in this one just based on the experience. Dennis Allen's been there, Derek Carr. I'm not crazy about the Saints this year by any stretch of the imagination. I think Carolina has some potential. Dave Canales, Bryce Young. But I'm going to go week 1 in New Orleans. The Superdome is going to be loud. Go with the veteran guys and the guys who've been there for a few years. I think New Orleans takes this matchup. Minnesota then travels to the New York Giants. Minnesota favored by -1.5. So they're favored by 1.5 on the road. So the betting odds in Vegas seems to like Minnesota quite a bit in this game. You look at it, JJ McCarthy, he's done for the year. Sam Darnold getting some pretty good reviews in camp, but that's something that he's always done in his career. But then when it comes to the actual season, he maybe plays well for a couple games and then falls off a cliff. He does have Justin Jefferson to throw to. He has Aaron Jones in the backfield. I think Minnesota is going to win this game. It's going to be an ugly game, maybe like a 17-14 or something like that. Now, watch as I say that, and then this turns into like a shootout. But I think that Minnesota just has enough to beat the Giants. Brian Daboll taking over play calling duties, so that's going to be either a boom or a bust. You love the pick of Malik Neighbors for the Giants, and you love the acquisition of Brian Burns they got from the Carolina Panthers. However, I'm just going to lean a little bit with Minnesota. Tough game to call here, though. It should be a close game, but not really a great fun game to watch, I don't think. You move on to a battle of AFC West teams. You have the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to the LA Chargers. Jim Harbaugh back in the NFL. Always going to have a lot of respect for Jim Harbaugh with the great job he did with the 49ers back in the day. Chargers favored by 3. I'm going to go with the Chargers here. They're at home, even though for the Chargers, that's not a huge advantage. But you got Justin Herbert. We know Jim Harbaugh, great coach. I think the Chargers, they have a bunch of guys on defense. Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Derwin James. I think they'll be able to force enough plays to slow down the Raiders. I like Max Crosby, though, to have a pretty decent game. Maybe he gets a couple of sacks. I just think that the Chargers, I'm going to lean with Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert over Antonio Pierce and Gardner Minshew. I just like that matchup. Again, week 1, I think it's a safer bet to go with the home team, the team with the better coach and the better quarterback. We're going to move on to Denver traveling to Seattle. And I think this was actually a week 1 game, maybe, was it a couple of years ago when Russell Wilson was first traded to the Denver Broncos. But we have Denver in Seattle. Seattle favored by 6, and I think that they will definitely win this game. Overall, Denver still a rebuilding team. They still have a long ways to go. Sean Payton getting his quarterback in Bo Nix. Bo Nix spent a ton of time in college, so fairly pro-ready. They do have some weapons there. Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Javonte Williams back healthy. Greg Dulcich, who I like at tight end, maybe he has a breakout season. But overall, it's just going to be too much, I think, for the Seattle Seahawks. Really love their new head coach up there in Seattle. I think, their offense is going to take another step. You have Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think he's primed for a big year. But I think the big thing here is Seattle at home against a rookie quarterback in his first game. I think Bo Nix going to have some struggles there. But I like Seattle's defense to take a step forward, shut down Denver, and Seattle wins week 1. We move on then to a really good matchup, and maybe one that's not getting talked about enough, and that's the Dallas Cowboys going to the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland favored by 2.5 here, so on a neutral field, Vegas is kind of saying maybe Dallas by a slight bit, and I can see why. I think Dallas are a good football team, but I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns here. We 49er fans, we know how tough it is to go into Cleveland, play in Cleveland against that defense. They beat us last season fair and square, although we didn't have Trent Williams or Deebo Samuel, but I think that Cleveland is a really good football team. We'll see maybe Deshaun Watson can regain some kind of form, but you add Jerry Jeudy, you have Amari Cooper. I like Jerome Ford there in the backfield, but that defense is going to lead the way. It's really going to give some trouble to the Dallas Cowboys. They did get CeeDee Lamb signed to a massive extension, did the Cowboys, but he wasn't there all offseason. I do think it takes maybe a week or two really for them, for Lamb and Prescott to get back onto the same page. I like the Cleveland Browns in this Week 1 matchup, and that would be a huge win for the Browns to kick off the 2024 season. Let's now move on to an intriguing matchup. We have the Washington Commanders going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. New regime in Washington. You got Dan Quinn as your head coach. Adam Peters, who 49er fans were familiar with, is their GM. You take Jaden Daniels at quarterback. This should be fireworks. The guy can do it all. Strong arm, really good thrower of the football. He can run as well. There's going to be a lot of just, I think, crazy plays in this matchup and just throughout the course of the season. You look at Tampa Bay, though, maybe flying a little bit under the radar. Some people weren't crazy about the Baker Mayfield extension. I thought he did enough to justify an extension. Do I think he's a franchise guy going to win you Super Bowls? Probably not, but I think he is a good quarterback. They still have their weapons there. You still got Mike Evans, who's going to churn out over 1,000 yards. You still got Chris Godwin. I really do like some of their players on defense as well. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers take this one at home, but this could be a really fun game to watch, especially because, again, with the fireworks of Jaden Daniels, who knows what's going to happen. Now we're going to move on to the Sunday night game and another really good game. You got the LA Rams taking on the Detroit Lions. Stafford and Goff go up against each other yet again, and I think this is going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a ton of offense. For the first time in many years, defensively, the Rams no Aaron Donald. The Lions are going to look to pick up where they left off last season, high-powered offense and making big plays on defense, and I think they do that, and I do think the Lions win this game. Week 1 should be another game, high-scoring game. I think it could be like a 31-28, maybe even more. I'm really excited to watch this game. I think the Lions, though, just too much talent. Love what they did in the offseason. Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra locked up there. Like their draft picks. I think that the Lions are primed for another big year under Dan Campbell. And finally, you have the New York Jets traveling to the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football. Yes, we have to wait an extra day to watch the 49ers. And look, it's been a hectic couple of weeks, especially for the Niners with everything that's happened. This should be a really good matchup. I'm going to do a more thorough video on my channel of kind of breaking this game down. I do think this game is also going to be really close. The Jets have a great defense. Aaron Rodgers is back. They got Garrett Wilson. They got Breece Hall. Not going to be an easy game, although I just think the Niners have a little bit too much firepower on both sides of the football to make enough plays, and they will pull out the win, but it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a really, really fun game to watch back and forth. Niners are favored by 4.5, and I think that's about right. Maybe it's like a 27-23 type game. I think it's going to be close. But there you have it, guys. Those are my predictions for week 1. I'm going to try and do predictions every single week, and I'll keep a running tally of my record throughout the year. Now, of course, in the comments below, drop some of your predictions, whether you agree with me, whether you think I'm crazy. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. It's great to see all of you guys again. I hope that you're happy that I'm back doing some videos. We're going to be doing some live streams for week 1, of course. But until then, guys, I got a couple of things to say. The butt counts, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.